Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the L1 show, Links with Friends. It is October 25th, and we're doing AI and nonsense for the end of your week.
And we'll start out with OpenAI as usual. And as we have seen, the OpenAI board went from people who were all about, like the whole open source, do good for humanity. That was purged. And slowly they've been building back all of their officers with people from questionable sources. This one in particular being the murder drone company.
Dane Stuckey, I hope I got that right, joins
Stuckey.
OpenAI as CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, former Palantir.
Anduril.
Huh?
It was Anduril, right?
Anduril says Palantir.
Oh, was it Palantir? Okay, well, not the murder drone company then.
Yeah.
The spying
Yeah.
global eye in the sky company.
The literal, we're going to build the thing from Lord of the Rings that was a warning that, wow, it would be terrible if there existed this piece of technology. They're like, this is an amazing piece of technology we should definitely build.
Well, actually, the Palantir was built as a communication device. And then it was used for that, and it was fine. But then when some of it fell into Sauron's hands, then it was like, oh, crap. Now you can't use it. Yeah.
Can't use it as a communication device.
Because it's being spied on.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, well, OpenAI feels a little Sauron-y.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. We're definitely third age Palantir, not first age Palantir.
And, the kids, they say, are more comfortable with new technology. They adopt it easier than the rest of us because it's not new to them. It's just how the world works. And so obviously the kids have started using it, and the schools are angry.
Parents take school to court after a student punished for using AI claims their child will suffer irreparable harm if the record stays.
I might argue your child will suffer irreparable harm if they don't learn how to articulate their thoughts for themselves. But,
well, the school handbook, in fact, had a policy about AI. They were proactive. This seems like a very preppy school. Mm-hmm. And the parents are clearly helicopter parents, and their argument is hilarious because they're like, they have a college to worry about. They have a big life, a future ahead of them, and you're ruining it. And it's basically like, do you know who I am?
Yeah.
Do you know what I pay here? And they do not want their kid to get that one bad grade because the competition is so fierce for those Ivy Plus schools. I bet that kid's miserable.
Yeah.
And I could not find a non-paywall version of this, but I think we got enough from the first two paragraphs that 404 graciously gives us to figure out that this is sort of the opposite, right? The kids are adapting well to it, but the people who are in jobs currently are like, don't make me do AI, please.
AI amazing tech venture. National Archives pushes Google Gemini AI on employees. It's like, but you could use, we have all of the data. We could give Google Gemini access to all of the data in the National Archives. And then as a staff member of the National Archives, your job will be easier, right? It definitely won't hallucinate answers and be somewhat useful, but also completely untrustworthy, right? And the employees are they're done with it.
So the idea here is that there's a big backlog at the National Archives. Surprisingly, more and more information and data is being generated every day, and they have to deal with it. So the idea here is that AI will look at it and be like, oh, I think this is going to be this. And then you just review it, which means they're just going to click next, right?
If anything, this just adds another layer of bureaucracy, right? Like, I have to deal with the AI before I can actually do the job.
And then somebody else probably review it.
Yeah.
And everybody wants AI-generated video, even though we only see that it seems to be making the world worse and more dangerous. And doesn't matter. We're going to get it.
Adobe starts rollout of AI video tools challenging OpenAI and Meta. So this is really, the Reuters headline here is terrible. AI just had their Adobe Max event, and they were showing lots of mind-blowing things, which Krista probably should have looked at or taken or seen or something. But they had stuff where they had a thing in a Photoshop. They had like a circus poster, and it was like a vertical circus poster. And they had all their layers. It was like circus and the artwork and blah, blah, blah. And then the artist was like, hey, I need different layouts for these other sizes. Like I need a horizontal layout.
Or square for social media, whatever, yeah.
Yeah, and it just did it. And the result that it did from what she did looked reasonable.
Mm.
And text-based generation, they're doing that too.
Yeah.
I'm curious, seeing some of the files we get from other design firms that are not labeled, not layered, do you think it could handle that That'd be
You think it'd
hilarious.
be mean about those?
It should be. If not, I will happily do that as the human being involved in the whole thing.
You can be the one pretending to be the AI, just crapping on people's files.
When it was fixing the layout, it duplicated this hidden layer 84 times and made it a central feature of the design. That's strange. It's like, yeah, you gotta clean up your crap.
People will never do it. No matter how many times I tell you, you got to clean up your files. I shouldn't have to guess which one is the correct thing because you've got 30 versions of this.
Well, people might do it. They might adopt it. They might love it. But for now, people are seeming to be a little hesitant toward AI in all forms.
AI disclaimers and political ads backfire on candidates, the study finds. Basically, just when you have something in your ad, it's like some of this was AI generated. People did not like that.
Well, because they don't know what was generated and what wasn't.
Get the Fallout style. Everyone disliked that in brackets.
It's interesting they had two different kinds of warnings because different states have different rules. One of them says it's only if it's deceptive, and one of them says if it's any kind of AI. People overwhelmingly preferred the any kind of AI because the deceptive one runs into the old problem of who decides.
Yeah. Just tell me you used it.
It's like, we know there are reports of this candidate having a fascination with murdering the neighborhood pets when he was a kid. AI has recreated some of those. That is accurate.
But overall, people slightly just didn't want any kind of AI in the ads, which seems fair. And here's a blast from the past. Remember the balloon that we shot down?
That was a fun series. What if that could have been our October surprise?
Well, this was not an October surprise. This was a December surprise in December of 23, which this happened. And this seems like way worse than the balloon, but they didn't tell us about it.
The Wall Street Journal's headline is Mystery Drones Swarmed a U.S. Military Base for 17 days and the Pentagon is stumped. But when you dig into this sounds like it was a large formation of drones moving in unison, and there may have been a small formation of a couple of drones once, but mostly it seems like this was one person who was here on a student visa who was flying a drone around military installations because, quote unquote, they like ships.
Well, that was just the one that they caught that one because he flew it into a tree.
Yeah.
But there was others that they were using a certain frequency that like is not open to.
And his was one of the like off the shelf DJI VTOLs, but the other one had the gliders.
Yeah.
So there was definitely something organized here,
Yeah,
but we don't know what.
It wasn't just any Joe Schmo, I don't think. At least not all of them.
And it is now, I don't know if this is because of the balloon, but it's illegal to shoot down drones over military bases without some like really high level clearance.
Oh, and they were trying to roll that back so that just anybody could.
Which could be the whole point of this, right?
Yeah.
Let us shoot what we want.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it was oversubscribing. Also, if they need any help, like, I could definitely write a thing. Like, you give me some software-defined radio, and you detect some stuff on those frequencies, I can totally hit an API to retask some satellites to just take a lot of pictures of the area at the moment those frequencies are detected. And that'd probably go a long way toward helping you figure out what happened later.
Well, these drones are not for surveillance, although there is a version that can be used for that, but that's not the one that they're advertising in this video. They're advertising the much more scary one.
Defense, a startup developing AI-powered kamikaze drones for the U.S. Marines. The U.S. is a little behind the curve on this. We may be watching folks, figure this out with like hobby drones elsewhere in the world.
Yeah.
It's like, look, I've turned my Dyson portable vacuum cleaner into a kamikaze drone. Ta-da!
I've dropped a grenade into an enemy trench just using this drone.
Well, this one's a little more advanced than that because it's not just, it can track, and with image recognition, those over there can do that too. And then you can, did you see the interface?
Yeah.
You choose the direction of approach, the angle of approach, and this one is not just a like run into you and blow up. This is like a claymore that triggers 3 feet away from you. So they show the truck and it gets like, 3 feet away from the windshield and it just shotguns all the interior of the truck. Very anti-personnel.
The important thing too is that, was this the version? There's a version, I don't know if this was this article, but there's a lot of defense companies working on this kind of thing. There was one that was reusable. Like it would fly the claymore to the thing and then it would like come on a parabolic approach and then drop it, and then it gets out of harm's way, and you could it could go and rearm itself.
Now they definitely refer to this one as a kamikaze. I'm sure they're working on that version though, right? Although maybe not, because just buy another one, bro. It's good for everybody.
We've gotten to the point where we 3D print everything. It's like the superstructure, the electronics, so they're just literally coming off the printer.
And the hallmark of the paranoid conspiracy theorists pulling down the shades to peek outside is they're looking for the black helicopters. And the most famous of all black helicopters is, of course, the Black Hawk.
DARPA pays $6 million to see fully autonomous Black Hawk helicopters.
Yep. It's going to be flying around with weapons by robots.
Now, I remember a story that we did last year or the year before, I think. You know the really lightweight fiberglass gyrocopters? They had an autonomous version of those because those are much less complicated mechanically than traditional helicopters. And so then it was just somebody had put servos to control the stick and the throttle, and it's like, ta-da, it's automated.
Well, they've already got the fly-by-wire Black Hawk, so that's not necessary.
Yeah.
It's all computer control at this point. And another vehicle that uses fly-by-wire is the old Teslas. And they have their famous full self-driving, but it seems to have had another weakness, this time fog.
Tesla faces a National Highway Traffic Safety Association investigation of full self-driving after a fatal collision.
Fatal to the pedestrian, unfortunately.
The traffic safety people have also gotten really clued in here. They said, we want to know if full self-driving was used 30 seconds before the collision, not used in the collision, because they found one of the pedestrian collisions, full self-driving had been turned off like 3 seconds before the collision, but it had been in use 30 seconds before the collision, which is a bit of a smoking gun in my opinion.
Now, if all this has got you feeling down on yourself, maybe paranoid about the future, that's understandable. It's, the existential threats are out there. Maybe you just want to spend some time just loving your pets. Just hang out with them, get your blood pressure down. But maybe you don't have pets. Maybe you can't have pets for whatever reason. Don't worry.
Casio made a furry robot designed to cuddle and calm you down.
Casio from our first section who just had a major security breach.
Yeah, be sure and register your Mothman.
It also purrs, doesn't it?
Yeah, it makes noises. Look, it kind of nuzzles into your neck.
And of course, because it's 2024, it has AI features. And the one that they advertised here is that the Mothman will remember who loves it the most.
It's kind of like my cat.
Yeah, and it will perform actions around them that it won't for anybody else. You think that can switch over time?
I bet so. Cricket certainly changes who he loves the most week after week.
It seems like humanity has crossed some sort of Rubicon when I think about there's an SQL table somewhere in Amazon infrastructure that is, select star from owners where love is, or ordered by love, limit 1 or something, and it's like, oh, this is the person that loves me the most, and it's just an entry in a SQL table somewhere.
Yeah, with cats, it's really just food based.
Who has the most food now?
Yeah. Who's more likely to get up and get me food?
Now, Krista, you are a hiker. Do you consider it cheating if the hikers have robotics installed on their bodies?
Not necessarily. I wouldn't think this would help that much, but maybe I'm wrong.
So if you see someone with this out on the trail, you're not going to push them down or anything?
No.
Electronic hiking pants. Arc'teryx?
I think it's Arc'teryx, but I actually don't know. I've never heard it said out loud.
Arc'teryx debuts its $5,000 Mogo trousers. It's exoskeleton legs. Every time we see exoskeleton stories, I'm thinking Warhammer 40K.
I have questions about how rugged it's actually going to be on a multi-day trip.
What were the things in Warhammer 40K that it wasn't the soldiers, it was just like the logistics people, but it was basically just corpses in wearing mech suits. I can't remember.
What have I done here?
That's what it's going to be. That's like Amazon. It's like when they outlaw fully autonomous robots, it's just going to be, nursing home corpses in the machines, and the machines are still just doing everything.
So yeah, they claim if you are mobility challenged, maybe you're old, maybe you got bad knees or whatever, these things will let you get out there and keep hiking as long as you very carefully manage the battery.
Yeah, battery's kind of a major problem multi-day as well.
that we just need to put charging stations in the woods. And a little bit of space news. Really just, actually, it's more of a design story than a space story.
Yeah.
Prada and Axiom Space unveil spacesuit designs for NASA's Artemis 3 moon mission. I stopped reading when they said it's one size fits all.
Yeah, I also read that and was like, no.
That doesn't seem like a responsible use of taxpayer money to come up with a one size fits all spacesuit.
Well, yeah, they're talking too about this moon mission. They're going to be like, oh, it might be the first time a woman walks on the moon. And it's like, women have different needs in clothing and in things than men. So it seems like that would perhaps not be ideal, but...
I love how, because like it's got to be sexy, right? We've got the sexy midriff incorporated into the space.
Yeah.
How many times are you going to be out there spacewalking? That's going to get caught on something as you're coming down.
I mean, it looks fine, but I imagine that once you test it, of course, it's always nothing survives first contact with the enemy. No design.
In this case, the enemy being the vacuum of space.
Yeah. Also, I learned something while I was researching a little bit more about this story. Apparently, Neil Armstrong's suit was designed by a brassiere company. I didn't know that. So it's not uncommon for fashion houses to consult on this kind of thing because they're the ones who are going to know how to get the fabric to perform the way they need it to.
Buzz Aldrin might be a little insulted by how you describe that suit.
What, the brassiere?
Well, they were all wearing that suit,
well,
not just Neil Armstrong. And moving on.
I'm just repeating the clickbait headline that I read earlier.
And you know who would be even more upset? The guys whose names we can't remember who were also on that
It's
flight.
the other astronauts.
And moving on to some celebrity news, we have a man who has, I would normally say this is very irresponsible, but considering his riches...
It's still pretty irresponsible from a human standpoint.
Oh, I guess.
Al Pacino says it's fun to be a new dad at 84.
He sees those kids very rarely, I'm sure.
I don't know if it's real or not, but there was a comment on this about Al Pacino. I don't remember if it was here or the Reddit thread that linked here, but somebody said, I met Al Pacino as a kid, and I was 11 or 12, and I ran up to him, and it was like, oh my gosh, you're Al Pacino. I remember you from Home Alone. It's and Al Pacino said, hey, hey kid, hey, who's your favorite actor? And he's like, well, you, obviously. And he gave him $100. It's right answer, kid.
Are you thinking of Joe Pesci?
Maybe is that a copy pasta?
Yeah. I've somehow. See, this is the bad thing when you read multiple articles in a row.
Yeah.
They all get spaghetti together.
So, to your point, though, Krista, in fact, he has no human contact with the kid. It's all Apple FaceTime because they've broken up.
That's probably all nannies anyway, though, when the kid is around him.
I mean, the kid will probably have a pretty decent life, at least in
financially.
Terms of, maybe not the best.
Missing a father is kind of a major component, but
I don't know. My life's not that great, so can I judge them? But I can judge this lady because she probably did the wrong thing. This was all just because her authority was questioned.
Texas middle school cheerleaders suffer first and second degree burns after punishment from coach.
So they performed a cheer that they were told never to perform. I don't know exactly why it was forbidden, but it was, and they did it anyway. And so the coach decided they had to bear walk and crab walk on a 125-degree walking track. Ooh. And they told her, our hands are burning, and she said, I don't care. She's been suspended.
I've heard a lot of horror stories about cheerleading teams. I would be very leery of that. I think if I was a parent of someone who wanted to cheerlead.
Seems like a lot of authoritarians take over those coaching roles and stuff like that. Trying to relive the glory.
Yeah.
And here's a man who will never relive his glory because he seems to be a lizard person.
King Charles did not know what cling film was and shrieked the first time he saw it.
You think that man knows how to cook anything?
No. I'm assuming they're talking... from the headline, I thought it was talking about the plastic that sticks to a glass window so they can put a decal on a window. No, they were talking about food prep.
Yeah, like when you put cling film up over a bowl or something and then you put it in the fridge.
Wrap.
Yeah.
I know it only as saran wrap.
He probably... there was probably a long time in his life before anybody ever let him see food that wasn't immediately ready to be beautifully served.
Well, it's so I like watching the gardening YouTube, and there was a video I watched recently where it was like his royal gardens or whatever, but it didn't talk to him at all. They talked to the actual people who did the gardening and stuff, and they're like, yeah, we have all this food that we grow or whatever because we want to make sure that most of the food coming into the palace is good. But they're like, we prep all of that before it goes out to the kitchens. Like, they don't, Charles isn't out there digging those carrots up.
God forbid a speck of dirt from his garden would ever reach him. And this one's all about the video. I mean, just go watch the video. It's hilarious.
Bay Village officer attacked by giant inflatable pumpkin.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, and this is, I don't know, it's sort of funny. It is large. It got away from its tethers.
The tethers seem not enough.
Yeah.
So here's the big moment.
Oh, no.
It gets him.
All my neighbors this year for Halloween have decided to put out, like, scarecrow skeleton figures, like climbing over their fences, or like one person has put a rocker in their front yard. It is terrifying driving through my neighborhood at night now because I think there's just people climbing everywhere.
You should just drive down the street shooting at them.
The one in the rocking chair, it looks like he's holding like a little, I don't think it's a real rifle, but like that's the position they've put him in their front yard.
You don't want the zombies to be using guns.
No.
That's a terrifying reality. And this is a terrifying reality because when people are trying to prove things in court, they don't really think through how they're getting that proof and how other people... There's no empathy here. Complete lack of empathy.
Federal judge has ordered attorneys to apologize for blaring screaming noises through South Philly.
So there's a weird argument where the argument here is whether or not you would expect people to respond to a woman screaming while she's being assaulted. So to test it, at, what was it, like 5:30 a.m.?
Yeah.
They played a woman screaming for 30 minutes or an hour. People responded.
Also, yeah, wouldn't that be like a noise ordinance thing?
You would think.
They usually have those in cities.
That was the defense. The prosecution did their own version with sirens earlier in the month. And the card... The card at work or the cake. I remember when one of my first jobs, because I was the new guy, it was my job to go and get the cake.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, this is so meaningless.
We did a cake for someone who left like a couple years ago. And I remember we were disappointed because the cookie place next door wouldn't put "You're dead to us" on the cake. They wouldn't write it.
Well, this gal took it very seriously.
A woman who sued company for not giving her a farewell card finds out they did buy a card, but almost nobody signed it. Judge rules the woman exhibited a conspiracy theory mentality.
And if you read about her, the other complaints against her at this job, she was clearly the kind of person that everybody was happy to see go.
Yeah. Also, I like they used a screenshot from Devil Wears Prada.
I've not seen that one.
It's a good movie.
I'm guessing that there's a nasty worker in that.
Yeah, it's all like inter-office politics, and the boss is a nightmare.
Oh. And here's a win for my people, although I think this is silly.
High court rules calling a man bald is sexual harassment. Okay.
So someone called this fella a bald "see you next Tuesday," and he decided, because that only applies to males, although technically that's not true, that it should count under the sexism harassment nonsense that they've got going on over there. And it seems like, yeah, that's the case.
I don't know if I would say it's sexism, but it would be sexual harassment because it's making a sexual comment about someone.
What's sexual about it?
About "see you next Tuesday." Oh, wait. Never mind. I had a different word in mind. Never mind.
What did you think it was?
I can't say because we can get demonetized.
Guess in the comments what Krista thought it was.
Maybe you don't want to do that to avoid.
It's just gonna be like everyone saying terrible words in the comments. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that they'll get their own account shadow banned.
Yeah.
Or something.
Oh, and I hate artificial sweeteners. I can taste it immediately. I cannot understand who people who drink it and they're like, no, it's the same. Like, what's wrong with your palate? But in this case, some people could have been forgiven for saying that.
Coca-Cola recalls its popular zero sugar drink because it contains full sugar. Oops.
Minute Maid lemonade. Zero sugar lemonade, in fact, had 100% sugar, not 0%.
There was no artificial sugar. I think somebody on the line was like, we're out of the artificial sweetener. It was like, oh, let's just use a few bags of sugar. It'll be fine.
I know it'll be mad about that.
It wasn't fun. And one of the states where it was released was Kentucky.
Oh, no.
Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio. We might have been. I don't drink that
I don't
stuff.
drink Minute Maid either.
Certainly not diet.
I got a Minute Maid. Was it? It might have been a different flavor. I remember at the end of my big hike, I got a lemonade at the little gift shop there, and it was the most incredible thing I'd ever tasted. But I think that was the week in the wilderness that made that better.
Do you ever plan that out? Do you plan your first meal back?
No, it's just whatever's on the way. I think I got McDonald's after the Foothills Trail. I had that lemonade at the gift shop, and then we went and got McDonald's.
You should go on a hike where at the end of it, you schedule like a brilliant chef to be waiting for you.
That would be nice.
With a tasting menu.
The thing is like a lot of times where you end a hike, there's no, like you're in the middle of nowhere still. You have to drive a while.
You're going to hire a food truck.
And tell them to come
to
out.
meet you there.
At the national park.
Well, Burger King is not that kind of food, but this fellow wanted some, and he didn't get exactly what he wanted. He requested, so this was I watched the video, his exact request, a Whopper, mayo only, cut in half. The Burger King workers, as you might have expected, slopped together a regular Whopper and threw it at him because they don't do that kind of stuff, and he was not happy about it.
Sheriff calls for backup over wrong Burger King order. So he wanted the deputies to go in and find out the manager's name or something like that. But this was already after hours, and so the dining room was locked.
No. It was middle of the day. They locked the door because of him.
Oh.
See, he was wearing digital camo, which is weird. But he wasn't wearing any sheriff note. They didn't know he was the sheriff.
Oh.
They just knew that he was an irate customer. And in the past,
like, we're just going to close the door, yeah.
At this location, they'd been assaulted before. So they're like, no, it's our policy to lock the doors. Wow. So he called in the deputies for that.
Which should tell you how crazy he was, too, that they immediately were like, this guy's going to cause us bodily harm. We're going to lock the doors.
3 deputies.
There's no fast food burger that's worth that level of effort, even if it is completely wrong. Even if they handed you a flaming turd in a bag, it's just like...
I wish I felt that kind of rage about anything anymore.
Yeah.
So the reason we know this is because someone else in that county is running for sheriff, and they freedom of information to all the body cams from the deputies. So 3 deputies showing up for that, maybe not the best idea.
It does seem like it's time for retirement a bit then. It's like if you're that stressed out about that sequence of events, then...
You're sitting at home retired and you're seething about it, and your wife's like, I could use a Whopper.
But only cut in half.
Yeah.
This story is amazing, but not for the reasons you think.
Well, I mean, probably good for us overall, right? But not good for your wallet.
CNN Business's headline is America revolted against Tostitos and Ruffles. Now they're making big changes. Basically, people noticed the shrinkflation and they just stopped buying.
I was going to say, I actually like the hint of lime Tostitos, but we don't buy them ever because it's like $5 for a tiny ass bag.
Now, the company is responding to this in a really interesting way. Only some markets noticed and only some markets revolted. So only some markets are getting the bags that have the 20% more labeling for free. They're going to give you 20% more and for free, but that's not rolling out everywhere. They're not rolling back this change. They're only doing it in select markets.
I assume if you're in a rich neighborhood, that's probably not something they're doing.
And they're not changing the family bag. They're introducing new sizes to their bag lineup, which there's already 16 of them. And so, yeah, this is just a headline. Maybe a couple of places are going to get them, but and also they're like, oh, the holidays are coming up and the Super Bowl, so everybody wants the big bag. We get that. I'm sure come March, those will not be a thing anymore.
Yeah, this almost seems like a congratulations, you won. You detected the shrinkflation. Now enjoy your shrinkflated bag.
Also, there's 170 comments.
Yeah, because everybody's noticed the shrinkflation.
People are upset about
America
this.
really has revolted. Perhaps not against the things they should, but damn it, we want our chip bags.
We're okay with Netflix, just squeezing money out of us, but don't mess with our salty snacks.
Yeah.
And the horses in Wyoming, sadly, sometimes they die. And when that happens, it's the circle of life. You know what shows up? A lot of bears.
Wyoming rangers to stop blowing up dead horses due to wildfire risk. Now, this article's real long, and it talks about how horses fall, and there's 2 horses in particular that fell, and they had to like nudge them off a cliff, and they didn't blow up the 2, but technically that was against policy, and so they revised policy to not always blow up the dead horses. And yeah, bears will come out of the woodwork to eat the dead horses if they're not blown into little bits. Then the bears don't bother with. But this article really didn't connect the dots on how dead horses that aren't blown up can lead to wildfire because of the bears swarming the carcass.
No, it's the explosion that leads to the wildfire.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they have a lovely little infographic here on how to blow up a dead horse.
See, I interpreted it as we stop the wildfires by blowing up the horses, not the blowing up the horses can lead to wildfire.
Yeah.
No, you blow up the horses so people don't get mauled by the bears. But in blowing up the horses, the flaming horse chunks can start fires.
They just need to use a different explosive.
Like tech tips. I don't remember Linus doing a video on this.
This text was hard to read, but like, what makes you use this much explosive on the horse rather than the standard amount?
You have extra money.
If it's the end of the year and you have a lot of explosives left.
I mean, for certain kinds of explosives, we know this from Mythbusters, there's not a lot of fire. It's just a concussive explosion, so it just doesn't
there was like a little hot piece of horse meat. Maybe, and it hits that dry grass because it's really
Fat.
dry out west.
Horse fat. But you're saying the answer here is shaped charges, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All pointing in at each other,
Yeah.
so the horse sort of just like implodes.
We could get a ball of molten copper to take out the horses. It would be great.
Maybe we should start eating horse meat.
Like the bears.
Yeah. Don't let it go to waste.
Be more like the bears. This was from independent.com. Total failure. You've never failed more, Vishwan Sankaran. You've never failed more at your job because the sound effect wasn't in here.
Mysterious new frog species found to croak like Star Trek special effects. Apparently sounds like a tricorder and some other stuff because these frogs are spawning around a river that is particularly loud. So normal frog sounds don't carry. They seem to have adapted to that.
But the boatswain whistle, is that from the one from the original series where it's like...
Yeah, I think so.
But that doesn't sound like a tricorder, does it?
No.
You think it does both?
Probably.
Again...
My interpretation.
I would love to hear the
frog.
frog.
If we just heard the sound effect.
We got nothing.
Did the tricorders in the Next Generation sound the same as the original series?
They sounded similar, but the ones in Next Gen sounded... There was more layers to the sound effect.
Would you be disappointed if you adopted one of these frogs and you got the original series instead?
I wouldn't be disappointed, but it's just...
I'd be enraged. You'd call deputies.
Yeah. As the horse story pointed out, apparently the games people are just doing everything they can to accommodate the bears. All of a sudden, the bears are number one.
Brown bear in Kent recovering well after UK first brain surgery. It had swelling on the brain. The article declines to identify the root cause of the swelling on the brain other than, well, sometimes the humors are just out of balance and we got to drain that cerebrospinal fluid.
What do you think that cost?
A lot.
How many humans do you think we could do surgical procedures on?
Not even one to fractional. The cost of the human version of that surgery is millions of dollars.
No, but I'm saying like maybe they don't have the same surgery. Maybe they just need chemotherapy or something. Seems like maybe some funds could have been better spent there.
I'm telling.
I mean, maybe this bear is very valuable. I don't know. Maybe he knows about AI. And finally, we see just a throwaway story, but it is hilarious because hippos have that little tail, and they use it for a very interesting thing.
Hippo splashes horrified visitors with watery feces at Indonesia Zoo. You got to watch the video. It was horrifying. It was quite horrifying. That's that little pond there. That's excrement. That's an excrement pond.
Every time I'm walking, like I walk, and it's mostly farmland around me, and I see the cattle near the fence. I always walk to the other side because I'm afraid of this exact thing happening.
The number one comment was, Moo Ding will never be like this. But actually that's true because Moo Ding is a pygmy hippo.
Yeah.
Do they not have the helicopter?
Well, I
pigtail?
mean, they might do this, but they won't be able to produce that kind of volume because they stay small.
Neither the volume nor the pressure.
What do you do? You're at the park. Now you're sprayed with hippo spray. Do you just go home? Do you just deal with it for the rest of the day? Do you try to like
You go home and you shower.
mop
You shower.
off?
I would think you would try to like mop off. Like if you're with a young family, a lot of times they'll have baby wipes and stuff or extra clothes in their van. But like if you're just like an adult there without child accoutrement, what do you just go home? I guess.
You're gonna need a lot of disinfecting wipes.
Yeah.
There's a life hack that if you go to Disney and you're dressed too slutty, you get a free T-shirt because they make you cover yourself up.
Oh.
Do you think maybe?
Do you think the zoo would get you a free T-shirt?
I think it's
Hey, your hippo shit all over me.
I think that's deserving of at least a free hippo T-shirt.
Yeah.
Right.
Ma'am, you're insulting the guests with your stank.
They could get you in there and hose you down. Like
Yeah.
they hose the hippos down. Yeah.
All right, well, chat, you've wasted another perfectly good week with us. We will be back next week with more stories. Bye.